Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I wanted to tell you that today is a very important topic. You may notice that your adopted child is sad. And when I mean sad, I mean just uncharacteristic for how they usually behave. You may be really worried about them. And so, what I want to do is in this episode today, I want to tell you the reasons for feeling depressed. And also, what to do about it, what to do when your child is really sad and you may be worried that they are, clinically depressed. So that's what we're going to talk about today on today's episode. So I'm inviting you on the journey and I will see you there. Maybe you used to have a cheerful, carefree, fun-loving child, one who got along with their siblings, made friends at school, and who laughs and smiles all the time at home. However, your child is different lately. They're throwing more tantrums, getting into arguments with other children and talking back to you. They may be crying more, keeping to themselves. Maybe, adolescents are going up into their room and stand there. They may have angry outbursts that seem to come for no apparent reason. They may even be talking about hurting themselves or even killing themselves. You ask yourself, what is going on? Why is my baby behaving this way? It's possible it's depression. And these are some signs that may indicate a visit to a therapist is needed to assess for clinical depression. So I'm going to go through these one at a time and just briefly describe them. So one is where your child is feeling hopeless. And irritable a lot of the times. Now, younger kids, it's not so much sadness that you're going to see, but you may see a lot of irritability and tantrums. So with younger kids, depression looks a little bit different. So again, feeling sad, hopeless, irritable a lot. Not wanting to do the things they used to enjoy, not doing the things that they really had fun doing before. Also showing changes in their eating patterns. They may be eating a lot less. They may be eating a lot more. Sleep. Changes in sleep patterns. They may be sleeping more. It may be very difficult to get them out of bed, or they may have a really hard time getting to sleep or staying asleep. Another indication of depression could be showing changes in their energy. They may be very tired, very sluggish, or tense and restless a lot of the time. They may start moving really slowly as if their bodies are really heavy. They may have a really hard time paying attention, especially in school. They may be off in another world a lot of times. So you're going to want to get with their teacher about how they're behaving in school. They also may have feelings of worthlessness, uselessness, or have intense feelings of guilt. They may also be showing self-injury or self-destructive behavior. And of course, that can look like cutting. That can look like getting into risky behaviors like drinking or drugs or sex, for older kids. So your child may not even realize they're depressed or why they're depressed, and that's why they need you. I wouldn't expect them to tell you because the child, again, may not even know what they're experiencing or why. They may have a hard time identifying their feelings, but especially have a hard time expressing those feelings. So you're going to need a skilled therapist and perhaps a psychiatrist to do a thorough assessment of, your child's symptoms to see if there is a diagnosis of depression here. So the clinician, let me tell you what to expect. Okay. So the clinician is going to take a full history of your child and of your family. They're also going to need a full history of the adoption. Okay. I know there's a lot of missing information when it comes to adoption, but you'll want to provide the psychiatrist or therapist with all the information you do have about the biological family, as there may be a genetic component to depression in their family. So once you have given that that full assessment to the therapist, they can start building a treatment plan based on your child's history and symptoms. Now, one thing I do want to talk about are the reasons for depression. You may be wondering, why the heck is my child depressed? They've never been this way before. We're a happy family. We get along. We do a lot of fun things together. You may be really confused as to why you have this sad child. So let's talk about those reasons for a little bit, okay? They may have trauma from being separated from their biological mother. Even as a newborn, that separation is felt. It's a biological phenomenon that they will feel the trauma in their little bodies, and it'll be kind of deep in their brain because of that separation. But there also could have been in utero trauma. Mom might have been doing drugs or drinking. Mom may have had really high stress in her life. She may not have gotten proper prenatal care. So those are some of the reasons why a child may be depressed, okay? They also may be grappling with some shame. And this is not because they've done anything wrong, but they may feel that, oh gosh, my biological mom gave me away, so I must not have been good enough. And I wonder if my adoptive mom and dad will also give me away because I'm not good enough. So I know that seems really irrational to you, because all you've done is shower your baby with love and give them the kind of life that they deserve. But they see it differently because they, again, feel like they've been given away. So it may cause some issues with shame, and shame very easily can turn into depression. Okay. So they may be also sad. Like I said, they may be worried about being given away again. Okay. So this sense of loss, there's a sense of loss with adoption, and this is called ambiguous loss. So it's ambiguous because the kid may not know why they feel this way. They may feel different. They may feel out of place in the family. They may feel like something is missing. And this is what we call ambiguous loss. So what I want to do is I want to give you a definition of ambiguous loss, like the official definition by Pauline Boss. She's the one that coined this phrase. So I'm going to read it to you now. Ambiguous loss is the grief of losing someone or something not dead. In adoption, family is both lost and presumably alive. Often whereabouts are unknown. This is applicable for people who are adopted in regards to ethnicity, country, culture, and or religion, depending on your history. Boss believes that ambiguous loss is the most stressful form of grief. For people who are adopted, this begins at birth or in childhood before identity has a chance to develop. Boss said that a woman, after she explained ambiguous loss, told her, "Oh, you mean the situation is crazy, not me." All right, so the thing that's difficult about this is that other people in their lives, their own parents, may not realize that this is grief, this is loss, this is an ambiguous, nebulous, confusing sense of loss in their lives. So they may often feel very alone and very unsupported because the people around them don't know what they're going through. They don't understand. And so that's why it's important for you as parents to know how common this is and that you can get help for it. You can get the expertise of a clinician who knows a lot about adoption, can walk with you and your child through this grief and help them to start feeling whole again and comfortable with talking about the sadness that they could never really quite put their finger on as to why they were having it. So the adoption triad, which of course you know as the birth parent, the adoptive parent, and the child, are often suffering from losses of their own to various degrees. Biological mom lost her biological child. Adoptive families often lost the hope of ever having a biological child due to infertility. And then the child, of course, is having the loss of the biological family. So there's just a lot of loss. It's not just the kiddo, it's also the other two parts of the triad. So one thing that will really, really help with ambiguous grief is avoiding or decreasing uncertainty. An adopted child just needs to know that you, as their parents, are not going anywhere. No matter how hard they push, no matter how sad they get, they don't have a chance of losing you. There's nothing they could ever do to make you walk away from them. They need to know this and they need to believe it, but it's going to take some work on your part. And it may take, like I said, a therapist or a psychiatrist or even a coach like me to help them feel like the treasured, valued child of God that they truly are, and to know that they have such a tremendous worth and tremendous value. So you want to decrease any kind of ambiguity they have in their life. And I want you to answer all of their questions. Yes, you're going to have to answer them developmentally appropriately. So a 3-year-old, you're not going to tell them all the details of, yeah, your mother, had unprotected sex and got pregnant. You're not going to do that. But, as kids get older and begin to understand things, you need to answer their questions, because they're going to feel confused, and they're going to feel maybe even kind of crazy for not knowing who they are or where they came from. So please answer their questions. If they ask about their birth family, be honest with them. If you don't know much about the birth family, you're going to have to tell them that. Sweetie, I don't know about your dad, but I do know that your mom was young. She was like 19 years old when she had you, and she wasn't able to take care of you because she didn't have a safe place to live. Okay, something like that. They're going to ask. And they may not even ask, to be honest, but they're going to have this ambiguous grief that may be a developing depression. And when they see a therapist or a coach, that therapist is going to ask the right questions. And they are going to focus on the adoption as the problem. Because a lot of times clinicians, this used to be me. I was the clinician that assumed that if a child was adopted from birth, and there's no adoption issues, they've always been with that family. But that's not true. So the adoption has to be addressed, because again, that child may not know why they're depressed or feel different or feel shame. But a clinician that has expertise in adoption will ask those questions about adoption and start to uncover what is going on for the child. And they will also work with you as their parents in how to answer the child's questions appropriately, but also how to validate their feelings. They don't need to feel like their questions or their sadness or their confusion is wrong. They should never feel like it's wrong to have these natural sadness, this natural ambiguous grieving that they're having. It's not wrong. It's just what happens. And so there's so much that you parents can do to support them when they have this sadness and this depression because of the adoption. So another thing that's going to help your child's healing is just clarity, is just making them know, that you're going to share with them whatever information that they need to know, and that you are not going to disown them if they ever are curious to go look for their biological family. Now, that doesn't mean you say, yes, you're going to go and be with your biological family. Some of you already have open adoptions, and your child may have contact with biological family members, which is actually very healthy and appropriate. Sometimes there have to be, some boundaries set up if there's drug abuse, things like that. But if there is that chance that your child wants to explore who their biological family is, if you don't know, if you don't have an open adoption, I don't want you to feel like your child doesn't love you and is going to abandon you. They just want to know where they came from. It has nothing to do with you and the love and the care that you've given them. They're not rejecting you because they want to know who they are. So I want you to be open to their curiosity about their biological family. And I mean, y'all can talk about, when you think it's appropriate. Some parents say when you're 18, you can go and look for your biological family. That depends on you and your family. So, but do encourage them to reach out to that biological family if they feel they're ready to do that. But it's also important to work with a therapist when that happens, because you want your child to be prepared for any kind of scenario. because their biological mom or dad may welcome them with open arms. That's the best case scenario. Or their biological mom or dad may want nothing to do with them. And we want your child to know about those possibilities and how to cope with either case. Okay, it may not be a fairy tale reunion. So they need to be prepared for that. And you as their parents can help them prepare, but also an excellent therapist can help them prepare as well. All right, so moving along. So again, there's ways to help your child. Now, let's talk about the different types of help that's available. So if your child is 10 years of age or younger, I suggest play therapy. I have been doing play therapy since 2018, and it's a wonderful way for kids to express themselves in a very non-threatening way. So kids that still play, usually age 10 and under, in a non-directive play therapy setting, they decide what they want to play with and how they want to play with it. And this is how they communicate to the therapist what's going on for them. Young kids don't sit there on a couch and talk about their feelings and say, I feel a sense of loss because my biological mother, gave me up. They don't talk like that, right? But what kids do is they communicate with play. So you're going to see, the therapist is going to see the emotions that they're feeling in the play. They may see anger come out. They may see sadness. They may see nurturing and family. They may see confusion. All the emotions that the child feels will come out in their play. And the therapist is looking for themes, looking for patterns that tell a story about what the child is going through. And a very good clinician will not just meet with the child, but will meet with you, parents, regularly as well, to give you, a sense of what's going on for the child and to find out how the child is doing at home, see if there's improvement. So play therapy is an excellent way to reach those younger kids under 10. Now, one way that you can, address your child's mental health is also when they're older, they can do different types of therapy. One of the most scientifically supported is cognitive behavioral therapy, and there are different flavors of that. That works really well for older kids because they are able to be more verbal about identifying and expressing their feelings. So tweens and adolescents can really be helped by a clinician that knows a lot about adoption and uses cognitive behavioral therapy. So again, even if your child is an adolescent, 17 years old, I don't care how old they are, they may even be a young adult, 21, 22, I think the family should be involved. I think that the therapist should be meeting with you as well, because you know your child better than anybody. You are the expert on your child. So you should be involved in the process. I would be skeptical of any therapist that doesn't bring you in for sessions regularly with and without the child. All right. So what does treatment look like? You may wonder, what the heck should I expect when I take my child to a therapist? Well, the therapist you choose will prioritize safety. If your child has voiced or has any kind of evidence of self-harm or suicidal thoughts, they are going to make sure that there is a safety plan in place that they will come up with the therapist for what are they going to do when they feel a certain way? What are their triggers? What are the coping mechanisms they can use when no one else is around? What are the coping mechanisms they can use with other people? It will be written down, all of the steps that they can take to stay safe, and it will be signed by the child, the therapist, and you as their parents. The safety plan will be shared with you. Everybody's going to get a copy. Everybody's going to sign it, and y'all are going to keep it. Everybody's going to keep their respective copies to refer to when the child is struggling. So safety is number one. If your child is not self-harming or suicidal, treatment will begin with rapport building with their new therapist. In my play therapy room, I allow the child to play with whatever and however they like. Some kids do like to talk about their feelings and verbalize. It just depends on the kid. Even young kids, some young kids talk about what's going on in school, talk about what's going on with friends. I let them take the lead. Older kids, I will build rapport with them by playing games and answering fun questions like, what's your favorite hobby? Or what's your favorite song? What would you do if you had $1 million? Stuff like that. So it's fun. I always try to make it fun because young people really flourish when they're having fun, and it makes them feel more comfortable with this perfect stranger that they're meeting for the first time. So rapport building is very, very important. And as I'm getting to know them, I'm going to be assessing them. As I see the feelings that are coming out, or maybe even the things that they're holding back, I'm keeping track of this, of the things that, every time I mention adoption, they clam up. And then I'm going to validate that. I'm going to let them know that I totally understand why you may not be able to talk about that yet, because you just met me, because you don't like to think about being adopted, and because it's just makes you sad and you don't want to feel sad right now. So the therapist is paying attention, and they're building rapport so they know that child really well. And the child is learning that they can trust this new adult in their life that's there to help them. So if it turns out, this is the last thing, this is the best case scenario. If your child turns out not to be clinically depressed, but you still want help, I have a coaching program specifically for adoptive families, as well as an online course that's in development right now. For more information, just go to my website. It's www.faithful-futures.com. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.